Leaving Mumbai, learning Goa. In 2011, when I first moved to Moira in North Goa, the phone range was so lousy that I'd rather have to walk to the end of my lane just to make a call. On the way, a local farmer once accosted me for harboring a python in my garden that had eaten his cat. This caused a ruckus. So the next door uncle, 2 penny in, arched his neck over the wall to take in the tension. There were power cuts for hours. There still are. One monsoon, my roof flew away. How did I end up here? I had had an enviable life in Mumbai. My family had moved to Juhu when it was a stretch of March. By the time I was 8, Bollywood stars lived close to us. I could monitor their domestic strife. As a young man, by then, a writer of modest success, I had a place at the many tables where champagne was vintage and everyone was spotting some kind of offspring, usually of companies, cooks, and husbands. Cooks were the most prized. I left many reasons, including ineffable ones, like sticking around in one place so long you can only get sick of it. In my 30s, Mumbai's transformation from adorable puppy vibes to burly, man eating monster was rapid. Skywalks appeared. They resembled worms from the small intestine. Then came the metro project. This was intra project as the intergenerational trauma. My grandmother had died by the time the one in the wild parl was looping across my best friend's yard, where it nearly looked as if to collapse even before some neta would inaugurate yet another functional ugliness. Yes, functional ugliness is the de facto aesthetic of modern Indian cities. Government funded functional ugliness competes with private funded ones. A billionaire built a 27th floor cantilevered ode to such revolting taste that the architecture ought to be publicly flogged. Near the Worley ceiling, public art was so wild it doubt as cautionary. Become an accountant, one might warn the child. If you become a city artist, you'll make this. Perhaps the wisest thing to do with a big Indian city is to leave it. I did. It wasn't cool then, the way moving to Goa is now. But it was an act, as Ori might say, of self care. First, what had I left behind? The Juhu Kolaba commute was no longer than the flight from Mumbai to Goa, thanks to dug up roads and endless traffic. TomTom's 2024 index puts Mumbai drivers at roughly 29 minutes per 10 km at peak, without about 100 plus hours lost to rush hour traffic annually. Kolkata and Pune now rank among the world's slowest. Mumbai offers roughly 1.24 square meter of public open space per person. It's brave to call it space and Dululu if you imagine it is open. Mumbai, like Delhi, is breathtaking, meaning it takes your breath away, leaving you rasping on the floor for oxygen. We still have to beat Delhi's world record as the most polluted capital. We're working on it. So a city writer, gasping and gasping, turned to the pastoral. Well, I'm not the only one. Some came to Goa to make their art, others to save their marriage or raise their children. In Moira, there's a joint for a child to learn carpentry as a hobby, not institutionalized labor. Many were climate change exiles from North India, where children were hacked out their lungs before they turned 4. All of us prized nature the way city counterparts did Birkins. We didn't want bragging rights to a Barsati as much as the straight out sunset skies across the Skoro plateau. There were retirees and misfits. There were writers and restaurateurs who had failed in Mumbai, who later also failed in Goa. We learned to recognize a poi seller's horn. We began to haggle for a fish in Mapusa market in strange post-colonial accents. Goa's pandemic era influx of remote workers and digital nomads wasn't big on Ghar Wapsi. They stuck around and brought friends. Understandably, the locals now loathe us. Our noise, our WhatsApp groups now where we fight for kombucha stains. From time to time, someone asks why I traded a city of museums, bookshops, and cinemas for village life that counts on imaginative stamina and emergency power backup because our cities failed us. You cannot build civic culture on a stinge of charming accidents. Like a porthole turns into a pond and your kid floats on a paperboat on it. You need rules that prize the common. Billionaires who commission parks and library instead of heliports and Garba performances. A planning regime that isn't essentially and shamelessly a builder lobby. Relax. Start show the greatest migration, nationally speaking, is still the great way. Indians are continuing to live in cities. They're just hating their lives there more than ever. The village versus city binary is useless. Cities win. Most Indians are now desperate for better cities. Cleaner air, parks without prowlers, and beaches without miles of rubbish, a commute that doesn't kill you, or tap water that isn't fair with jaundice, diarrhea, or sewage. We want to stay, but we simply can't. And those of us, a silently growing tribe who left, did so from an existential crisis, or frankly, because we love Goa.